I know. The Prismari Performance deck came out almost a year ago, so why are you doing a video on it now, Danon? Well, I'm glad you asked. Commander doesn't always move at the same speed as Standard or even Modern. Sometimes you buy a Precon and let it sit on the shelf for a bit. You pull it down sometimes and play with it, try to figure out what you want to do with the deck. If no ideas come to you, you put the deck back on the shelf and leave it for a few months. Which brings me to the subject of today's video. Prismari Performance is the blue-red deck released alongside last spring's Strixhaven set. There were 5 decks released and they were all 2-color decks, each one a pair of enemy colors. The Prismari, or Is It, pre-constructed deck was led by Zafai, Thunder Conductor. Prismari is the College of Elemental Arts. These are the theater kids. Boisterous, chaotic, mischievous, and creative. Zafai is an absolute flavor win in all of these areas. But he is not who I chose as my commander. Before we go any further, a quick reminder to like and subscribe. It really does help the channel. Inside the Precon is another commander that can lead the deck. Veryan, voice of Duality. She is a professor who, through both careful study and raw passion, brings out the best in her students, which is represented in her magic card. Veryan is a 3-mana 2/2 legendary Efreet wizard with Magecraft, one of the key words from Strixhaven. Magecraft triggers whenever you cast or copy an instant or sorcery spell. In her case, her power and toughness each increase by 1 every time you cast an instant or sorcery spell. However, she also has a second line of text which reads, if you casting or copying an instant or sorcery spell causes a triggered ability of a permanent you control to trigger, that ability triggers an additional time. Which means Veryan's other ability triggers twice. So every time you cast an instant or sorcery, she basically gets +2/+2. So we could take Veryan and build a Storm deck, make her unblockable or give her trample or something, and just turn her into a hybrid Storm Voltron deck. Or we could ignore her Magecraft ability and focus on the second ability, which is what I've chosen to do. So let's take a look at the original deck list and compare it to our checklist. 37 lands and 14 pieces of ramp. A little heavy, but 4 of the ramp pieces are rituals rather than rocks you can use over and over again, so we may want to look at adding a few more. 14 pieces of card advantage, again a little heavy, but as a Storm deck, it's to be expected. Some of these card draw spells are actually just cantrips, which you want in a Storm deck. 6 pieces of interaction, very light so we'll want to add more. 3 board wipes, right on target. 2 pieces of graveyard hate. No sudden I win cards, but Spellslinger or Storm decks are all about setting up synergistic combos rather than winning off a single card. So what do we want our deck to do? Veryan makes it so anytime a permanent we control would trigger from casting or copying an instant or sorcery, it triggers an additional time. So we want permanents that trigger. There are already several in this deck, like Swarm Intelligence and Sunbird's Invocation, so we'll be keeping those. But anything that doesn't add to our plan should be cut. Additionally, I wanted to keep this total build under $100. My goal was that someone with the Precon could spend only $50 and make this deck much more competitive. Not EDH level, but closer to a 7 than the 4 the Precon started at. The first thing we're doing is dropping Zafai Thunder Conductor and replacing him with Ral Storm's Conduit. Ral is an excellent planeswalker, and his static ability can win us games single-handedly. Next on the chopping block are Elemental Masterpiece, Call the Skybreaker, and Surge to Victory. Call the Skybreaker would be fine in a tokens deck, and Surge to Victory is a great card for winning with a go-wide deck. But we're neither of those. This is a Spellslinger deck, and those cards aren't good enough to meet our standards. Instead, we'll be replacing them with permanents that can trigger off our commander in Thousand Year Storm, Double Vision, and Niv Mizzet Perun. Thousand Year Storm triggers twice if our commander is on board, which can make for headache-inducing math. The interaction between these two cards can be summed up via a mathematical formula. And you thought math was just for blockers. The formula is this: 1 plus 2n equals x. X is the number of copies, including the original, that go on the stack, where n is the number of instants or sorceries you've already cast this turn. So if you've only cast a single instant or sorcery this turn, x would equal 1. But your second spell would resolve 3 times, the original plus 2 copies, and your third would resolve 5 times. This is part of the reason Veryan isn't on MTGO yet. 1 plus 2n equal x loops tend to crash the program. Going back to cuts, Riona Fire Dancer is an amazing creature, and you can build a fun and powerful deck around her. So is Narumiha, Master Wizard. However, they don't fit the theme of what we're trying to do. Octavia Living Thesis is close, but not quite good enough. So we'll be replacing them with Increasing Vengeance, Expansion Explosion, and Narset's Reversal. To give us a counterspell package, we'll be cutting Erratic Cyclops, Crackling Drake, and Diluvian Primordial for Counterspell, Negate, and Arcane Denial. Inferno Project is an interesting card, but with us cutting down on some of our higher mana value spells, it won't be as good, which also means Living Lore is getting the axe. And since we're not a group hug deck, Humble Defector is also gone. Replacing them will be more interaction in Abrade, Chaos Warp, and Reality Shift. Fiery Fall and Traumatic Visions are way too expensive mana-wise, so they get replaced with Pongify and Firemind's Research. Epic Experiment has the capability of being a powerful card, but you'd want it in a deck with a ton of mana, which this deck doesn't have. If we were running the Isochron Scepter Dramatic Reversal combo, maybe, but not for this budget build. Also, Aethergale just isn't a good Magic card. It requires 6 targets, so it doesn't get around hexproof, and it's sorcery speed. If Aethergale was instant speed, I could see running it, but instead we'll be running Archmage Emeritus and Efreet Flame Painter for more card advantage. Finally, though this deck was running a lot of mana generators, rituals can't reliably be reused, so we're looking at cutting Letter of Acceptance and Blighted Cataract for a Fire Diamond and a Sky Diamond. Additionally, I wanted more dual lands rather than cycling lands, so we'll be cutting Desert of the Fervent, Desert of the Mind, and Forgotten Cave for Volatile Fjord, Silver Bluff Bridge, and Swiftwater Cliffs. Izzet Boilerworks gets swapped out for an Izzet Guildgate, and Lonely Sandbar, Majoring Network, and Study Hall each get replaced with a basic. So let's take a look at our new and improved deck list and see how it checks out. 51 mana sources, right on target. Yes, some of them are rituals, but they can lead to explosive turns. 11 pieces of card advantage, plus 4 more cantrips. 11 pieces of interaction, 3 board wipes, and 2 pieces of graveyard hate. So not only does this deck check all the boxes, it can be built for around $100. Less if you can get the precon for cheap. I always try to support my local game store, but if they don't have what I'm looking for, online is fine. If you're wanting a budget introduction to Spellslinger with easy paths to upgrade this deck, give it a shot. Spellslinger is not an easy deck to pilot by any means, but it is a lot of fun. Thanks for tuning in. I spent a while on this deck and wanted to give my audience a good deck list that I'd played a few times before posting this video. Once again, a huge shout out to my editor Cute Stuff. I couldn't make these videos without her. If you'd like to hire her to edit your own videos, there's a link to her Fiverr page below. Please like and subscribe for more content. I post new Commander videos every Monday, or you can click here for more Commander content. Stay safe, and I'll see you all again next time on Musings by Danon.